All right, we're back. Of course, rolling coverage of Election Day in 3 Nigerian states where off-season or off-cycle elections have been holding, namely Imo State, Kogi State, and Bayelsa State. As you've been watching the live updates and coverage right here on New Central TV, voting has been going on across the states. And we're live in the studio with our guests in studio and via video link. And of course, our correspondents on the field in all the states, bringing you the latest analysis and coverage of these elections. You're welcome to the ballot. I'm Kofi Bartels.
And I'm Dashen Usman. Well, from what we know from the last time we were on air up until now, the election process has been relatively kind of seamless, to say, except for pockets of violence in some places and accusations here and there. But we'll get to tell you more about what we know and what we've heard, reports that we've heard, especially from our correspondents on the ground in the course of this particular programming.
Yes, indeed. Of course, to also be looking at the different aspects of this election, also giving you as much as we can data and analysis of the numbers and the figures behind today's election right here on the ballot. Once again, you're welcome. We'll take a breather. And when we come back, we'll delve straight into the latest reports, the updates, and then we have analysis from our guests in the studio and via video link. Once again, you're welcome.
All right, welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Well, just before we move into the updates, we'd like to introduce our guests that are with us for this time. And we have one in the studio and also one via Zoom. And talking about our guest in the studio, we have Segun Sopitan. He is the principal partner, Woodridge and Scott Consulting in Lagos State, and also the chairman, Accountability, Candor and Transparency Network. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure being here.
And via Zoom, we also have Godbless Otubure. He has linked up with us live from Abuja, and right about now he's on ground as an observer, and he is with us. He is part of is the Global Aid President for Ready to Lead Africa. Good morning, God bless, and thank you so much for joining us as well.
Thank you so much for having me. It's good to be back on New Central and to contribute to the conversation.
All right, so we also have Eze Eluche. He's a lawyer, an activist, and also a political commentator joining us from Imo State. Thank you so much for joining us, Eze.
Thank you very much for having me on board.
All right, you're welcome, gentlemen. So, but before we, go ahead with the analysis, we'd like to keep you updated on what has actually transpired from 10 a.m. up until now.
Around 8 a.m.
Okay, around 8 up until now. Now, from what we know that according to one of our correspondents who is live in Imo State, there's been voter apathy in the polling unit where she was, despite early arrival of materials and also security agents, and that's in Imo State. We also have a report of result sheets being filled, and INEC has actually said they're looking into it, and this actually happened in Kogi State. We also have a really sad one here, a boat carrying 12 election officials that capsized in Bayelsa State, and this is also according to INEC. Everything was lost except for the lives of the INEC officials, which is we're actually grateful for. Yes,
we heard all the electoral materials were lost in that boat mishap.
Yes, indeed. An election official was also abducted in Bayelsa State. That was on Friday, just a few hours before the elections this morning as well. We've also have reports of gunshots fired a few meters from the Central Amamo School, where the PDP candidate Samuel Anyanwu was scheduled to vote, and this is in Imo State. APC in Bayelsa has raised an alarm about voters' intimidation as well. Suspected thugs invaded polling units in southern Ijo, Sagbama area. They even hijacked election materials, but attempts by the electorate to even challenge these armed thugs, led to more gunfire. But sadly, no life was lost. Thank God, no life was lost. and also Nembe Basambari, that there was a brief conference with the sitting governor in Bayelsa State, that's talking about Governor Duye Diri, where he said that PDP members were chased out of their communities and they've already escalated the issue to INEC. Yes,
indeed. We'll be giving more updates as time goes on. We also have our guests on standby to give analysis. But before that, like we said, our correspondents are on the ground across the 3 states. Standing by now, of course, is Chinwe, who is a News Central's correspondent right now on the ground in Imo State. Chinwe, thank you very much for joining us. And we can see you've been giving reports all through today. Please give us a situation report where you are.
Okay, right now I am at Ezioha, Eziama Obiato community in Mbitolu local government area of Imo State. Voting is going on in the accredited area for this very unit, but there's something that is happening here, and that thing is that behind me are some units. There are about 4 polling units, and these units are not originally assigned to be in this location. But because of the crisis that is going on in their area, they had to be reassigned to this place. And unfortunately, the voters for these units are yet to turn up. Not a single voter has come from that very community. We have it on good record that there are issues of insecurity in that very community. And so the INEC officials are scared to go to that area in that very community and are asked to stay in this place so that the voters will have to make their way to this place. But then it will not be easy for the voters who will also have to, take some transportation to come here. And remember, today is a non-movement day for people who are not on essential duty. So that is the situation here. 4 polling units without any voter yet coming up to vote.
Okay, so what does this mean, if voters don't actually turn up before the end of voting process, which is supposed to be 2 p.m.?
Well, the Independent National Electoral Commission will have to decide whether the number of people who registered in this polling unit is enough to cancel the election. If it's not enough, it will just, be dealt like the 0 polling units, the 38 0 polling units that Imo State already has known, So I'm not sure the number will be substantial enough to void whatever the outcome of this election will be. But then the voters are not participating in this exercise.
All right. Apart from the location where you are at the polling unit, what was your observation, in other parts of the state before you got to where you were? Did you notice there was a palpable maybe a tension in the areas where you passed through, and that the prior insecurity may have made people a bit too scared to come out to vote? And of course, do we have heavy security presence where you are?
Well, for the places I've been to, I've not seen any problem. I've not seen cases of insecurity yet. What you notice is, coded vote buying, which is happening. And again, the revolution by the other parties for whichever party is involved in the vote buying. So, but basically, there's not been any insecurity cases in all the polling units that I have seen this morning. But I have with me an indigene of this community.
All right, please go ahead.
Usman is here with me. Please, Mr. Uzama, come. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, what do you think is responsible for the voter apathy that we are seeing in the polling units today?
It's very simple. It's not more story that we in Imo State, we have been living under fear for some years now. And in this area, last week, we had a visitation from military men twice in the Asia, what we call it, here is Omar of ICYMI Autonomous Community in ICYMI, which has these polling centers. At least what happened there, gunshots, harassment, imparted fear into the people. So this morning, when the INEC official came, so the people decided to allow them come here to vote. And I don't think since morning, nobody have come from that area to come and vote. So that's the area. Even the turnout of voters here, normally we have over 1,000 voters here, but up to 100 are yet to come to vote. So this is the result of insecurity in the state.
Does lack of confidence in the electoral umpire have anything to do with this whole thing too?
A lot. Considering what transpired after the presidential election, from INEC, the courts, many people lost confidence in the process. Even when you ask them, they will say after voting. In fact, some say that they have already reached the results. So why are they coming out to vote? But we are citizens of this country. I still believe that my vote must count. That's why I came back from Omaya to come and cast my vote, which I voted. And I believe that the true reflection of our votes will come through.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So that's how most of them here feel about this whole process.
All right. Chinwe, just to reiterate before you go, what's the local government area and then the polling area where you are?
This is the Toli local government area.
Okay. All right.
And this is ICYMI ward.
All right. Chinwe, thank you so very kindly for your time. We certainly enjoyed your report, and we will get back to you, or we hope you get back to us along the way. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Quite interesting. I would like to bring in at this point, Godbless Otubure, who is the global president of ReadyToLeadAfrica. Godbless, thank you once again for your time. What are your thoughts on what we just heard from our colleague right there on the ground in Imo State, where insecurity in Mbitoli local government area has forced a movement of polling units in some wards because they do not want to endanger the life of the voters and the INEC staff. I mean, you are in the election situation room, I think you call it Octagon 2 there in Abuja. What can you say about this?
I mean, we've been getting this information for a while now. Of course, we have our people who are actually giving us this real-time report from all of these areas, and we reported it in our press conference that there will be polling units where elections will not hold. But it is shameful. It is a pure indictment on who we are as a people. Liberia just conducted elections, and there was no report of anywhere where elections could not hold. And we traveled all the way to Liberia to observe the process, and now they have a runoff, and all of that. So, if today in 2023, after 20 years of democracy, and we are regarded as one of the most educated group of Africans in the world, and we cannot conduct elections because of insecurity, I don't know what else to say. We kept warning about the possibility of violence, about the threats of secessionist agitators, and of course, it's not unconnected to the failure of government over the years. Look at what the voter who was spoken to by your correspondent on the ground, he said, this is not unconnected to what happened in the last general elections and some of the post-elections, activities that happened. So it is concerning, especially for those of us who believe in democracy, believe in the idea of a free society, that believe that people should be allowed to vote for who should lead them. It's concerning, and our situation room is currently active. I'm currently at the studio part of it, and just behind me we have the situation room where our data clerks have been calling and talking to observers on the field. We're getting data pouring into our dashboard, and all of these issues have been captured. But also to hear it again, on News Central, it's absolutely disturbing.
Right. What other, apart from Imo State, what other, sorts of reports are you getting from your observers on the field for Imo State and as well Bayelsa State and Kogi State?
Well, we've had, from what we've seen, polling units in Kogi sort of opened a bit earlier than what we are experiencing in Bayelsa and Imo. But of course, there's been violence in Kogi. We're still fact-checking. There's been reported shooting of 2 ballot box snatchers by the military. That we are still trying to fact check those images. Of course, we also see that, which is mostly true, pre-filled election forms, voting materials in Kogi State. I cannot in the life of me believe that people are that desperate or people are that broken to say they won an election that is an election. I mean, you have to be elected. You cannot write the result and claim to be elected. So that's one of the things we're seeing in Kogi. In Bayelsa, we've also had it coming onto my phone right now. We've seen a lot of, of course, the mishap in Bayelsa is also, our heart goes out to all the people that are affected. Thank God no life was lost. We've also seen low voter turnout in many polling units. Of course, what we've seen again, we've seen the PDP candidate who's come out to say his agent should not accredit to observe or let the process go. They should protest, do recordings of what is going on in the polling unit and share on social media. So all of these things, of course, the arrival, the process, the violence level, and the results, these are all things that our situation room, we're currently getting data from. We're working with over 200 people in Imo, working with people in the 56 LGAs. Of course, there's some LGAs where we've had to recall people, especially in Imo. Then Bayelsa, of course, we've had skirmishes, vote buying. Also, vote buying is a big problem in Kogi and Bayelsa, as well as Imo. We've had, and I have specific locations that we can name. Of course, these are going to come out in our report to INEC and to the Nigerian people. So, so far, those are some of the things that we've seen. Currently, we know that there's helicopter that's circling around the sky in Kogi, and so those are some of the things that we're getting in real time as we observe the process and just share with Nigerians what is going on.
All right. Do you know what may be the factors behind the relative early arrival of materials, election materials, and starting a voting process? Process of accreditation in Kogi State, whilst in Bayelsa State it seemed that it started really late, and in Imo State it also started behind schedule. You have any inkling as to indication as to the reasons behind this?
Well, the easiest is, Abuja and Kogi is just just a couple of hours away, and I know also because we're involved in the process. I know there are a lot of top level INEC officials who were deployed to Kogi, which I know personally are very committed to their work, and they made sure that the distribution of sensitive materials were actually done with a lot of commitment and excellence. So I can say, because I know that was happening, and clearly it meant I'm not surprised at the quick opening of polls in Kogi. In Bayelsa, of course, Bayelsa is a very unique area, very peculiar, geographical area where you have a lot of the polling units off the inland areas and water views. So those are some of the challenges. But technically, we're also compiling this data to be able to say, did INEC learn its lessons? Did INEC improve on its processes? And if that is not the case, at the end of the voting period, we're also going to be able to tell Nigerians as we do our reporting, with that. But in terms of the direct answer, I'll probably just leave it at a lazy man conclusion that says Kogi is not far from Abuja, and I know clearly that some very smart, committed INEC officials have been deployed to Kogi. I know some of them, and they are committed to their work, and probably that is why you see an excellent opening of polls in Kogi compared to other parts. I don't know the other people that were deployed to the other places.
All right, well, thank you so much. God bless Otubure. We'll get back to you on this. But would love to reconnect with our correspondent on ground in Kogi State, talking about Bettinah Nwelih. Hello, Bettinah. Thank you so much for joining us at this time. Please go ahead and give us an update. What polling unit are you in right now, and what is happening there? How far is the election going?
All right, so far so good. The election has been going seamlessly in my side of Kogi State. I'm at CSX polling unit 006 in Lokoja. And earlier on, there was a bit of an altercation between two family members, I understand. But I have one of the party agents here who is going to explain to us what exactly happened and how they were able to manage the situation. Good afternoon, sir. Please, can you tell us your full name and who you are?
Good afternoon. I'm Muhammad Baba Idanoko from 006 Lokoja local government. As you can see, our processes are going smoothly. Just before now, we have little misunderstanding between the family members that brought out their family issue to the polling, but we're able to resolve it. And as you can see, we're making progress.
All right. I was asking you earlier how deep this altercation was and whether you thought it was a plan to scatter the voting process here. So tell us what you think about it. I know you did mention that it was a bit serious and one brother was almost stabbing the other brother.
Yeah. Really, it's not a planned thing because from their actions, you can never tell, but it's not a planned thing because we're able to control them and talk to them that there's life after here. And to me, it doesn't worth it. We should just go our ways and make sure we do what is right. And that's what we're doing right now. The tension is down and hopefully before sometime from now, we'll be done.
All right, let me ask you about the security in Kogi State, especially in Lokoja in regards to this general election, governorship election. What would you say has changed from the last 4 years till now in terms of security? Have there been any changes at all?
Yeah, this is the first time we're ever having such crisis in our unit. We've never had it like this. And we understand the tension is very high and individual interest is being play out. But the security architecture is, to me, it's okay. We can attest to the fact that we have, to some large extent, the minimal security we expect from the government.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
All right, and also earlier on, we noticed that from the stretch of Lokoja all the way down to Okene and back, as opposed to what we see usually during the elections, we see Nigerian police on the streets. This time around, we did not see Nigerian police on the street. The army were used majorly for reasons best known to the government, and I would say that they really did their own part. There was a part where there were some vehicles that were bulletproof, 3 in number, were trying to get across from Lokoja to Okene, but the Nigerian army stopped us for almost 2 hours trying to verify who they were before they could allow anybody pass through. So I would say that the security in Kogi State for now is going very well.
All right, quite interesting, Bettinah. We noticed in an earlier reports that voting started relatively early in parts of Kogi State where our other colleague reporter is. Would you say that that's been your observation, that the voting and indeed accreditation started relatively on time, if not exactly on time, but relatively on time in parts of Kogi State where you've been?
Yes, I would say that. I would also express my concerns regarding the movement of the materials. So yesterday when we went to the INEC office, we noticed that materials had already been moved away to their stations, which I found a bit off, if I would say, because the materials are supposed to move in the morning from the INEC offices to the polling stations. But in that regard, yes, accreditation started early than we are used to, but people are happy about that and they are still casting their votes.
All right. Thank you very much, Bettinah Nwelih. We'll get back to you. Please do get back to us at some point for further updates. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. And we also would say thanks and goodbye to Godbless Otubure, Global President of Ready to Lead Africa. Godbless, thank you very much for your time, and indeed, we would love to hear from you if there are any updates in your situation room.
Thank you so much for having me. We'll be here anytime, any day, between now and when polls close, to give further updates on what we've seen on the ground in the 3 states.
Right, thank you very much. We now shift our attention to our other guests, of course. Right here in the studio with us, we have Segun Sopitan as the chairman of ACT Network, that's the Accountability, Candor and Transparency Network. Also with us in the studio on Zoom, via Zoom, is Eze Luche. He's a lawyer and activist and a political commentator. He's in Imo State. And also joining us in the studio a few moments ago, Wale Ogunade. He's the president of Voters Awareness Initiative Lagos. Gentlemen, thank you for your patience while we were trying to go through the processes and questions with Godbless. Let's go over to you. I think we'd go to the guys in the studio. Let's start with Segun Sopitan.
All right. Well, Segun, now I actually really want to hear, from you. You heard what our correspondent, first of all, in Imo State, talking about Chinwe, said about what's going on at the polling unit where she is. That's the Mbitoli local government area. She talked about coded vote buying. She did talk about voter apathy as well. Would love you to actually share your thoughts on, all that she has said.
It's for those of us that have been observing elections in recent years, culminated in the general elections that we've had in 2023, this is no surprise. Having voter apathy is no surprise. The reports of vote buying is no surprise. There are fundamental issues that have culminated in these reports, and sadly, season in, season out, I personally have been doing election commentary, observation, and what have you, either as an individual or as a part of the CSO networks, for about 3 election cycles now, and nothing has changed. And that's no surprise, because the fundamental issues that result in these behavioral patterns that we're seeing across the country remain what they are until we as a people and as Nigerians come together and compel a conversation regarding some of these fundamental issues and compel our political public office holders who are responsible for legislation to make the changes that we need. We will continue to see these behavioral patterns. Our elections are going to continue to be like war zones. We're going to see vote buying, we're going to see violence, we're going to see INEC being sabotaged by politicians, we're going to see INEC becoming players in the game themselves because the politicians are going to be trying to influence the outcomes of these elections. So none of these things are surprising. You will notice that the reports from the 3 states have been similar. Whether you talk about Imo vote buying, we had the reports from Godbless, and you notice that they're similar. Whether it's in Kogi, whether it's in Bayelsa or in Imo, the behavioral patterns are the same. So no surprises there. I think that eventually, at some point down the line, we have to come together as a people and put a stop to this. Because what we have, sadly, is that these elections are, with all due respect to whoever is involved and all of the organizers, the participating public, they're a bit of a farce. We're going through a process that we just have to go through to present an image that we have a democracy. But the truth of the matter is that a lot of times the results that come out of this processes really reflect, in truth, the actual will of the people. You may say and argue that, to a certain degree, maybe you have some measure of reflection there. But if you subject, those same elections to thorough scrutiny, you find that there's too much manipulation going on behind the scenes to guarantee that the outcomes actually reflect the will of the people. And that's what we're seeing playing out in all of these places. So we need to come together. And I would say, you know, it's a charge in particular to civil society that we can take the conversation and take the battle to the political players. The reason we see these things is that the incentive for the winner is simply too strong. You know, when you have a winner takes all and the amount of resources that are available to the winners in these elections being what it is, then you will see the kind of behaviors that we see election in and election out. So we need to, we must recognize that the politicians will not make the changes that are required. They will not, because nobody will pour the pot that is eating soup from away with his own hands. So it has to come down to the Nigerian people, and I think that the lead for that will have to be taken by civil society to ensure that changes happen that will prevent these types of behavior from continuing to repeat themselves.
All right, now let's move to Eze. Thank you so much for your patience once again. Now, you also heard what Chinwe said about voter apathy, and reports actually have it that there's actually an existing sit-at-home order, you know, which has been declared in Imo State. Since you're in Imo State, it has been declared and extended to today. So a lot of people have actually found it difficult to, you know, move to their polling units to be able to cast their ballots. And we know how scared the residents or indigents are of, you know, these armed group, especially, you know, talking about the IPOB there. Now, we want to know how does the activity or activities of the armed men aligned with IPOB threaten the electoral process in the long run or in the run-up to the governorship elections, especially in Imo State? Hello, Eze, can you hear me?
All right, it seems that we've lost contact via Zoom with Eze Luche, who's in Imo State.
All right.
But we'd like to probably introduce Wale Ogunade, whose name I didn't mention probably earlier. Wale, please forgive me. You've listened to what you know, our reporter said. I don't know if you came before that, but Dashen asked a very important question about IPOB, about unknown gunmen, and the effect of that on voter turnout. And reporter Chinwe, who is on the ground in Imbitoli local government area of Imo State, has just told us that in that local government area, in a ward, the voting of polling units had to be shifted to different areas because of insecurity, and voters, not even a single voter has been able to make his or her way to vote because of the restriction of movement and the distance between the former original polling unit and this new location. So what are your thoughts on that, please?
Yeah, the first thing is that it's unfortunate that found ourselves in that situation in Imo State. There are two options there. It's either you go out to vote and your vote is counted, or you don't go out at all and there will be an override over your votes, and whoever is elected in the adjoining area, the votes of the adjoining area will be counted as being your votes, and you no doubt you didn't take part in the elections, but there will be somebody who will be declared a winner in your area. So the issue is that not going out to vote is against your own interest. Be that as it may, the security particularly is important. It is when you are alive that you can go out to vote and when you are ensure that you are safe. So one would have expected that the security agencies will have really taken steps. We all know that the Southeast is not that a friendly environment when it comes to situations like this. The IPOB and the unknown government together, they don't want anything civil or anything government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to hold, particularly any activity of an agency of government. I was in Oduwere some time ago, and these guys came and disrupted the voter education program that we're having. We just escaped by the whisker because one of us knew them and talked to them, and they now release. They just excuse that, and what they did was that they say people should just go away. They don't want such a thing happening around. And of course, the report was made, and one will expect that the security agents will take that up seriously, particularly now that the elections coming up. And even before, we all knew what has happened in Imo State, the hot and the heat concerning the preparation for the election. We will expect that both INEC and the security agencies themselves will really do a lot. They know those who are the troublemakers. All they need to do is to comb those areas, those that are troublemakers, they put them in check, or they put security situation on ground to check all this mayhem so as to avoid what we are seeing now. That is one. Two, the second leg is that the politicians themselves are not blameless in this situation. We know that the politicians want a few number of people to come out and vote. I'm talking from experience. I'm involved in voter education, and you hardly see the politicians encouraging voter education. You don't see them doing any serious voter awareness. So they want to see that indeed the lesser and the lower the number of people come out to vote, the better. So one will not be surprised if they too are encouraging the unknown gunmen in that area to strike or to harass people, so that those who want to vote against them don't come out. That is two. Three, they may even now start or conduct this crisis in the area of their opponent or those who do not want them to win the election. So it's a whole lot of activities negative in that regard, which does not make and allow election and democracy to thrive. So to that extent, what we need and what we'll just look at is that the next time an off-season election is taking place, or even any general election for that matter, the security agents should be they should be up and doing in encouraging and in ensuring rather that they map out their strategy in curbing all these things that will make democracy not succeed. For information, elections generally are the voters' festival. They come out to exercise their franchise, free will, without being disturbed, intimidated, or harassed. So if such issues arises or is in place, then definitely we don't have full-blown democracy. What we have now is something akin to it, and that is not what we are looking at. I agree, and I want to adopt the sentiment of my brother in the studio that said that, well, we civil society members that are involved in the electoral activities and promoting good governance, including the media, we should see how we can work around these things. Because to me, about opportunity again to monitor elections anywhere around the world, some countries around the world, and I do say that it's only in Nigeria that we have all these crises majorly. In some countries, they do it even in their various homes. They do it online, and of course, everybody votes anywhere he is.
All
and
right,
all.
Mr. Wale,
Yes.
sorry to cut you short there, but would love to take our next question to Eze Eluche. Welcome back, Mr. Eluche.
Thank you very much for having me on.
All right, so while you were away, we were actually talking about the spate of insecurity and voter apathy in some communities in Imo State, leading to some communities being unable to, or some electorates in those communities being unable to come out to vote. And we did talk about, coded vote buying in some of these communities in Imo State. So what we want to know right now is, I remember prior to this election today, some political parties in the state were actually trading blames over the wave of violence in the state. We would love for you to tell us what more can these political parties actually do to ensure that the polls concludes hitch-free?
Well, thank you very much. If you recollect, the Inspector General of Police had deployed a very high-powered police delegation led by DIG Frank Mba and 25,000 police officers, 25,000. If you understand the nature of Imo State, it's a very compact state. I mean, when I mean compact in terms of land mass, it's very, very small. So when you have 25,000 policemen, plus soldiers, road safety, and other paramilitary agencies, you now begin to wonder, how is it possible for any act of insecurity to take place without the active connivance of this armada of security personnel? And I make that allegation very strongly, because when you hear these reports, it's not just in isolated communities. Right there in Godbless Road, Owerri, the primary school there, you have thugs who are running loose on the place. At the outskirts of Owerri, the state capital, at Ndegu, and an entire ward, no pulling, no materials. And you hear all sorts of stories. You begin to wonder, where are these 25,000 police officers 10 commissioners of police, 27 assistant commissioners of police. As of today, every divisional command in Imo State, every divisional police command is headed by an assistant commissioner of police. So the state is effectively policed, effectively guarded by security personnel. And it's a very small area, slightly, in fact, after Lagos State, Imo State is the second smallest state in Nigeria. And it doesn't have the riverine, the excessive riverine terrain that you have in Bayelsa or River State. So how is it possible for hoodlums to perpetrate atrocities in this state with this number of police?
Elvis Aluche, can you hear me, please? Well, we'll try and get back to Elvis Aluche. He was making quite...
Back, please.
Okay, please continue. Yes.
Yes. When I saw that the AIG, that's the DIG, Frank Mba, refused to answer certain questions at the meeting with CSOs and the media, I got very worried because he was asked a pointed question. He was asked by one of the participants at Nwangele during the presidential elections. Despite all the police presence, the police armored vehicle was used by a sitting politician to cut away ballot papers from unit to unit. The DIG was asked, what will you guarantee the people that this thing will not reoccur? Rather than give an emphatic response, what Frank Mba did yesterday was a shocker to people like us who had hoped that with the police presence in the state, we will at least have free and fair polls. Frank Mba avoided that question and said he will only start from his presence in Imo State to go forward. We gave a very wrong signal because that means that if those things happen again, nothing will happen. And we realized that the IG of police, Egbetokun, had ordered that no politician will move around the state with police escorts so that there will be no issue of harassment or intimidation of voters. But when we saw the governor come out to vote, oh boy, it was like the entire police force was behind him. And so those kind of things gives people the very wrong impression about what's really going on in the state. Yes, INEC did its very best in this instance. And when I say did its best to some extent is that what they did yesterday in Imo State was that the materials left the state capital to the collation centers. In Irete, for instance, where you have about 10 polling units, the INEC officials slept over with security. They arrived at 11 in the night, and they slept over so that by the following morning, 8 o'clock, everybody was up and doing. But when you have instances where there is security lapse, you begin to wonder, where is this issue from? Is the problem we are now going to have the security people, the policemen, who virtually outnumber the voters in Imo State? With regards to the number of people coming out to vote, there has been voter apathy, very, very high level of voter apathy. And you don't blame the people. When they observe what transpired in the last elections, the election of February 25th and the out of March 18th this year, and despite all the efforts of people to come out and vote and hope their votes will count, nothing happened. So there is very serious, palpable voter apathy going on. But then, even if there's voter apathy, the police who are here in their numbers should please do not further incense the people. If you have that, the numbers, each news of ballots being taken to houses of individuals and some printing going on should not be allowed. It hurts the feeling that people who should actually protect the institutions are now the cause of the problem. In the course of an earlier interview you had today, when the man in Abuja, I can't remember his name, who tried to vouch for the INEC persons in a Kogi state because he knew them. Now, that is a very dangerous line because your personal knowledge of these INEC men should not be a criteria for what they do on the field. For goodness sake, let us assess INEC not on how we know them as a person, but how the polling agents and the polling unit clerks, how they work. And so far in Imo State, yes, the problem is not with the voting, it's not with the INEC officials, it's with the absence of security, despite the huge number of security personnel in the state.
All right. Very interesting. Segun Sopitan, of Friday's national dailies and even Thursday showed front pages. You saw massive military, even throughout the week, let's say, police security show of force moving around. And I asked a question saying, before the presidential election in February 2023, we saw the same thing. In fact, I remember in Rivers State, even the Navy went on a show of force and marched through the streets of Port Harcourt. But during the elections, what did we see? Were there anywhere to be found? Or did we see hoodlums and some thugs, even aided by some police officers, because we saw the pictures and videos on our phones and screens. They tried to rig the election in some parts of that state. So what are your thoughts on what our guest Eze Eluchi is saying? Is that with the number of police personnel we have in Imo State as we speak, we should not be hearing of any danger to voters that will mean they can't come out to vote. That's number one. Number two, apart from that, our colleague Chinwe, who reported from Mbitoli local government area in Imo State, said she saw a massive deployment of military personnel on the streets I think that was Bettinah. So let's stay with Imo State for now. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, it's the only word I can find is weird. The question we should ask is, are we having elections? Are we having a war? Why do we have 25,000 policemen in one state? Because we're about to have an election. It's abnormal. Like my colleague in the studio has said, you go around the other parts of the world, including in Africa, including our neighboring states who are smaller, by far less well-resourced than us, and their elections are very smooth. They happen in a couple of days and results are out very quickly. We have some pockets of terrible electoral practice across Africa. Nigeria, by a very distant mile, is the worst. Kenya can be pretty notorious at times, and we've had some, types of situations in some East African countries. But Nigeria is blazing the trail from a negative point of view, and you have to ask yourself why. Why would we have 25,000 policemen in one state? Because we're about to have elections.
Well, necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
If you look at the insecurity, aren't these guys meant to provide safety for the population?
And like you say, ironically, in spite of this overwhelming numbers of policemen, military personnel, they even co-opt the paramilitary services, road safety, civil defense, and all of that. In spite of this overwhelming presence, this thing still happen anyway. Thugs still snatch ballot boxes anyway. People still get killed anyway. Polling units get completely destroyed, overrun by hooligans. It happens we saw what happened in Lagos in the recent elections, where you would see policemen standing right there while thugs were tearing ballot boxes to shreds and threatening people, in some instances shooting, with policemen right there. So you wonder what the police is really doing, with all of this overwhelming show of force. It's all a charade. When the push comes to shove and the die gets cast, the police turns aside. And I would challenge the police hierarchy to prove me wrong, to prove Nigerians wrong. The security presence of the police, when they are most needed, withers away. And I dare say that it's deliberate collusion. There is no other explanation. There is no way to explain why you would have 25,000 policemen in one state, like the gentleman that just spoke from Imo has said. In a state with this land mass of Imo, to have 25,000, you can actually compute the number of policemen per square kilometer that you have in that state, and you find that the number is significant enough to ensure that there is absolute peace during the elections, but it does not happen.
Yeah, before Dashen comes up in, but Segun, just a quick follow-up. Most of these policemen will be at the polling units, the polling centers, and by law, they are not allowed to carry weapons. So they are there, sitting there. If people come with bottles and glass, they duck. So maybe it could be argued that some of these guys themselves are also don't feel they need to interfere. For instance, remember in Lagos State, where some voters were attacked. Remember that video of a woman being hit with a chair? You saw the police officer was standing by. And we've seen replicate videos of stuff like that. But the police officer at the polling unit just stands by because he's not armed. So can we blame them?
Yes, we can. Look, the architecture of the election activities in Nigeria is very clear. I think we all know it now. There are 3 rings. There are 3 security rings around every polling unit. There is the inner ring where the police are right there at the polling unit and they are not allowed to carry weapons for obvious purposes, for obvious reasons. And then the outer ring, which is just about a kilometer, if I'm not mistaken, away from the polling units, where you do have armed police personnel. And then the outermost ring, where the military and the more resourced in terms of arms and ammunition is on standby. When these things happen at the polling units, the requirement of the law, the requirement of their processes, in such situation is that those people at the polling units are supposed to immediately mobilize the second ring, so that those people can then quickly move in and quell whatever is happening. But we rarely saw this happen. We saw it happen in a couple of instances in Lagos and in other parts of the country where the outer ring came in and quickly restored order. But it doesn't happen often enough. And I think that the police has to do better in providing security, especially with all of the things that they say prior to elections, and the show of force they always, as a ritual, put out there. They need to do better, and we need to see the effect of their presence on the elections.
Okay, now you actually did say, or is that safe to say that despite the beefed up security in these states is not enough to avert the looming threat of insecurity that has already been predicted. Now let's move on to Wale Ogunade. Now, Wale, can you tell us, still talking about security here, can you share your thoughts with us on the use of military in most parts of Kogi State, as reported by our correspondent, Bettinah Nwelih, who is on ground there?
Yes, I've observed the election, particularly the last 2 elections in Kogi State, the one that brought Yahaya Bello in and the one that gave him his second term. And both elections were war. Remember, I'm just remembering now, there's a polling unit, primary school, I'm sure those in Lokoja will know, they call it the Lokogoma area. Very tough. It's one complex primary school, and a lot of polling units there, I guess 10 or 15 or so. In the middle, just around 10, 11, the place was stormed by thugs, and of course, everybody ran for cover. And of course, it was typical, Anyangba, Okene, Dekina, so many, all these places. I don't know why Kogi has this special aspect of thuggery during election, violence and use of armed personnel who disguise as military men to now foment trouble, scare voters away, and so on. I don't know why. And of course, we've written reports to INEC, and I'm sure INEC will have shared it with the security agencies, particularly the police. But I don't know why INEC does, the situation remains. So I guess 2 days ago, I can't remember, maybe 2 days ago, early this morning, I learned that one military man was arrested fully. A serving military man was arrested. I don't know why that they are involved in such things. But be that as it may, in my earlier statement, I said that it is the politicians who fuel this thing. And they will fuel it because of the system on ground. It is a winner-takes-all thing. And that's why, again, all of those of us who are involved in the issue of democracy, that will have good governance, we must ensure that we begin to work on this thing before the next general election. 1, there must be an amendment to the Constitution. 2, there must be an amendment to the Electoral Act. The Constitution is so strong that before you can amend it, it's too difficult. And of course, the difficulty is about the process and procedure of conducting an election. Then the Electoral Act itself. Now, to all intents and purposes, INEC have been given so much powers, and those powers now need to be looked into, so that there must be some element of intervention when we see that they are not doing the right thing. Not that we just leave everything to INEC, and at the end of the day, they now misuse the power. Then the security agents too. How did they come in? There must be a way that they will intervene. must they, of course, there will be reports, there will be the intelligence reports concerning people who are gathering, who are either amassing arms or planning to disturb an election in a local government area, in a ward or in a coalition center. All those things are things that they should be on ground to nip in the bud. Not now that the election has come. All these things have been with us for days, for months, and the intelligence will have revealed it. Why is it that it's now that on the day of election that we are seeing these things happen? Then the fourth one is that indeed, in some situations, you see that the security agents are compromised. If they are not compromised, when on duty, they ought to do their jobs. No doubt, those in the electoral who are at the voting center do not bear arms. But they have some people who are the outer ring, just as my colleague just described, who are there to have information that if there is anything happening to disturb the peace of the election, get in touch with us, and they will come in to deal with the situation. And of course, if it's not within their ability to contain, then they send in for further reinforcement, and we are good to go. That is even when it happens. It shouldn't happen in the first instance. Why will it happen? Because some people are not doing their job, because intelligence have failed in some situation, because some people just profit from even this. Of course, don't forget that during election too, there is issue of security to be dealt with, and of course, it's a big.
Thank you very much. Wale Ogunade, we'll come back to you very quickly, very shortly. But interesting experience you shared with us from your time in Kogi State. We have our correspondent Chinwe Ugele standing by. Chinwe has been in Imo State. Chinwe, thank you so much for your time. What's the latest?
Thank you so much, Kofi. So I'm currently at polling unit 12, Comprehensive Secondary School, Umudibia, Wale West local government area of the state. Round, but before I really let you understand what is happening around, at this particular polling unit, there has been allegations. But let me just quickly drop some of the informations we have. We know that voting commenced at the right time. We know that people have been coming in trickles, but not so much as expected by so many people. But the party agents have laid allegations against the party agent for the Labour Party. You shared some things with us earlier. Kindly let's have these on camera. Okay.
We seem to be having a bit of a frozen feed from Chinwe Ugele. We will get back to him as time permits, so as soon as we can re-establish that connection. But like I said, maybe one of the candidates should have promised Dashen to give people on that state, in Imo State, better network. It seems that's an issue over there, the network connectivity. From Kogi reports, it's been so far so good.
Yes, very, very
good.
But
for Imo State, network is there. So whoever has got the next, whether it's Uzodima, whoever should please fix the network there. But we still have Eze with us, but also we'd like to welcome at this point Mr. Ruben Joshua. Ruben is Executive Director of Eco Josh Empowerment Foundation. He's in Lokoja, the Kogi State capital. Ruben Joshua, thank you so much for your time.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, Ruben, you're in Kogi State. What is your analysis of today's activities so far as accreditation, voting, distribution of materials, the conduct of the election, the conduct by politicians, security, and everything surrounding today's election in Kogi State and indeed around the other states are concerned? Ruben?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me here. So far, so good. Kogi State elections has been peaceful. Voter turnout is a bit encouraging, but not too good as expected. Materials were well distributed, and INEC staff are really doing their job. So far, so good. Everywhere we've roved around Lokoja precisely has been peaceful, and electorates are busy casting their vote for candidates of their choices.
All right. Ruben, we got some updates from Kogi State, but we have the operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission arriving at the polling unit of one of the candidates, talking about Dino Melaye, to observe the exercise. Have you observed that the EFCC, has been active in the days leading up to the election, or even on election day? What's your view of this? Do you suspect that this is something that is being done across different polling units, or do you suspect that probably this will be for now for that particular polling unit of that particular candidate?
Okay. As an observer, I may not be able to report and cover for every polling unit. So we have observers across some polling units in the states. But where we've covered so far, personally and my team, where we've gone around local jobs so far, we've not come in contact with any staff or officers of EFCC. So I wouldn't say anything in regards to that, because we've not really observed any EFCC staff on the field.
All right, Ruben, still staying in Kogi State. Now, Kogi has been listed as one of the states with the propensity for electoral violence that's based on historical evidence and also the existing security situation. To the extent that an alarm was raised by the military on the presence of fake soldiers. Now, what were your expectations during this particular elections as regards insecurity in Kogi State?
Sorry, I didn't get it too clearly. The network was blinking.
All right.
Can you take that again?
Yes, if you can hear me. I said Kogi was listed as one of the states with the propensity for electoral violence, and that's based on history and also the existing security situation in the state. An alarm was also raised by the military on the presence of fake soldiers in the state. That's prior to today. That's prior to the elections. What were your expectations as regards security, and did you expect anything different?
Yeah, from speculation and going by history and going by antecedent of elections that have been taking place, unfortunately, our elections has been characterized with so much high violence. So this has created a lot of fear in the minds of the electorate. So actually today we're also expecting maybe there will be pockets of violence, but as God will have it, so far we've not recorded much violence as expected. I think that is also can be traced to the presence of military personnel, as a lot of them are being seen on ground junctions at every nook and cranny of the state capital. And I just believe it's same at the interlands. But so far it has been peaceful, and there's expectation of violence has not been so pronounced. So I think with this, Kogi image is gradually being redeemed when it comes to electoral violence.
All right, quite interesting. I want to come back to, and please stay with us, Ruben, we'll come back to you shortly. I want to come back to Segun in the studio. Segun, what do you think of the role of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission? I mean, if you see the pictures of, and I'm looking at it on my screen right now, of the EFCC operatives, I haven't seen anything like that before, where you have EFCC operatives with the uniform, a camouflage written with inscription EFCC. And this time they have the camouflage, bulletproof, the high caliber weapons and helmet, and of course the inscription logo of the EFCC is on it. It's the first for me. But we're also seeing images and reports of vote buying in places like Imo State. I mean, pictures have captured money exchanging hands. In places like Bayelsa State, pictures have captured money exchanging hands. I'm looking at some of those pictures as I'm talking to you. So what do you say? For instance, in Bayelsa State, in Ward 10, polling unit 11 Yonogwa, supported by the cable, they are saying that voters collecting money from parties' representatives after casting their vote. I'm seeing another one. This is coming in from the SDP candidate in Kogi, governorship candidate, who is also alleging that there's some sort of vote buying and all that. I'm seeing in Bayelsa State, polling unit 004, Sampu Kalama Ward in Kolokuma, Opokuma local government area, where residents are said to be writing their names after voting. They're writing it down and they're asking if that's vote buying. So with the bravado of the EFCC, this is still happening. Segun.
I'm glad you used the word bravado,
Wale is laughing.
Yeah, I mean, because that's all it is. So they go with these uniforms. I didn't know they moved on to camouflage now.
It's the first I'm seeing.
The previous election, they had their jackets, their red jackets with their names inscribed at the back of it, and then they parade themselves across, the electioneering areas, the polling units and all of that. And you wonder, I mean, how silly will you be as a lawbreaker to break the law in the presence of security operatives? The work that the EFCC needs to do should have happened before the election day. They should have stopped the money. They are Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. All banks are required to send reports to them as a part of the Anti-Money Laundering Act, where there are transactions above a certain limit, on individual accounts and then on corporate accounts as well. So the EFCC has all of the support of policy from the CBN and the financial system to provide them, to arm them with the information they need to follow money. Their job is to follow the money and then stop it in its track to prevent it from actually doing the damage that it will do during this processes. They don't do that for whatever reason. Then they come on election day with jackets and guns, further militarizing our elections to the detriment of voter participation, because nobody wants to go to a place where you're seeing guns, being displayed and all of that. So they're not doing what they should be doing to stop these very bad practices and bad behavior from our politicians. They need to go backwards. Don't start from the end of the value chain, from the end of the link. Start from the top. Look for the big fish. Track the money, and then stop them from sending the monies across. And if you can't do that, then you can work your way backwards in that chain as well, in that link, to stop the people that go with the bags. There are people hidden somewhere in the background with bags of cash.
I'm sorry, Segun, very interesting point you're making. Sincere apologies. Bettinah Nwelih, who's a polling unit, has the compliments of those EFCC officials, is addressing the press. Let's listen to him.
In fact, I would say we are suffocated with security. I would say that security is oversubscribed for the election. And, there was adequate security across board, and I think the security agencies so far have done brilliantly well, though the problem is always at the collation center. At times you see peaceful conduct of elections, peaceful process of electioneering, but the problem actually is at the collation center. I just do hope that the security agencies will do exactly what they did during the preparatory processes of the election to the actual vote casting, to results announcement, that the same type of vigor is given to the collation centers. The collation centers must be protected at local government level, at the federal level, and at the state level. I hope that will be done. But we have problems in Ogurimagongo, and in the 5 local governments actually in the central senatorial district of the state. We had cases of results sheets by INEC officials in the carrying result sheets in their bag that already have been filled even before accreditation took place. And very gallant, vibrant youths accosted some of the POs and some of the assistant polling clerks to just to find out that the sheets they are carrying were already filled, were already results already stated, even when accreditation has not taken place. And I think that's a huge disappointment, because I was thinking INEC will use this opportunity to redeem our image. They will use this opportunity to ameliorate the mistakes of the past, though some of them deliberate. It's a shame that we could see INEC original result sheets carried not by hoodlums, not by party members, but by INEC staff already filled. And when they were being asked for the other original result sheet or any, they said they don't have any other results. So as I speak with you, there is no voting going on in the entire Ogori-Magongo local government. And it's a big shame. What I want to be done is justice, because I called my agents across the state and I say anywhere the result sheet is not shown to you, anywhere you're not seeing that there's a blank sheet before accreditation, don't participate in the election. And that was what they carried out in Ogori-Magongo today. But we've not had any, apart from the Kina local government, where some hoodlums tried to snatch ballot boxes and some of them were killed. Across the states, I think it's so far so good.
Okay, so you've expressed concerns over what will likely happen at the collation centers. Have you put any measures in place to kind of checkmate some of these?
I am not part of the security architecture of this country, but what we have done is we have called on relevant quarters to make sure that the collation centers are protected, local government by local government, and the final collation center in Lokoja should be adequately protected. And we have called on the INEC chairman and the REC of the state that observers should not have any place inside the collation center, because most of APC members got the observers tag. We don't know how they got it, and that is what they've been using over the years to take over the collation center, because once they have the observers tag, they have access to the center and they dominate the place and then carry out their havoc. But we are saying this time around, anyone with an observation of election is during the electioneering process. At the collation center, the agents are the ones who are supposed to be inside with the relevant INEC officials, because no vote is taking place. It is a matter of collation. So at that point, I think where commissioners will wear observer tag, where special assistants to the governor will wear special tags and walk and stroll into the collation center will not be allowed by the PDP.
All right, sir. Electoral malpractices seems to be part of Nigeria's electoral history. As a stakeholder, how do you think we can ameliorate this totally?
The way to ameliorate is for PDP to, is for APC to become born again. You are investigative journalists. You went around today and you see they were sharing wrappers. They were sharing wrappers and giving huge sum of money to monetize the consciences of the electorate and the voters. The way to do it is for Nigerians to become born again, is for us to have an attitudinal change. If we want to change this country, it starts from individuals. So every one of us must either walk in the light of creative altruism or will perish in the darkness of destructive selfishness.
So since Monday, journalists have been waiting at the polling unit to see you come cast the vote. Have you voted?
I have voted. And maybe you went to the wrong polling unit. Maybe you went to the wrong polling unit.
Please, can you state your polling unit for us for verification, please?
I'm not under attack. I've voted.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right, classic Bettinah Nwelih, Senator Bettinah Nwelih, ICYMI, Dashen, not exactly as boisterous as Nigerians are used to, but you can see he was quite firm. Yeah. Contrary to what we felt or we thought we heard, that he hadn't voted. He had voted, but he said he's already voted. He's not ready to entertain any question.
Why did he refuse to tell us, his polling unit and where he actually voted?
That's Dino for you. But anyway, Segun Shop, we thought you were on a point before we went. We had to go. I can't remember what.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I was talking about, yes, so please go ahead.
Yeah, but your thoughts, maybe you can finish what you were saying and then we go to the rest of our guests.
Well, yes, so I was talking about the way the EFCC has gone about its task, of stopping vote buying and any other financial related malpractice during the elections, and I was just saying that they have to clean up their acts. And let me borrow Senator Bettinah Nwelih's words. They have to become born again, because nothing has changed in the way they've conducted themselves over the last 2 election cycles or thereabouts. And vote buying is alive and well, it's thriving. So they're obviously failing at something and they need to change. It's a madman that does things the same way and expects different results. So they need to change the way they're going about, their duties. And hopefully, if their intentions are true, then we should see a difference.
All right, let's come back to you, Wale. What are your thoughts on the brief press conference that Bettinah Nwelih just had with journalists?
I just hope that he will not change his story again. Dino is another thing entirely. He's an interesting person. He he has spoken glowingly, at least to some extent. I just hope that you will not recant in terms of now telling us stories concerning the election, what has happened, and so on and so forth. Be that as it may, really, I want to salute the courage of Dino particularly and all other contestants. They've done a lot of work. They've done the serious campaign all over, and I hope that indeed the better side wins the election. The only problem I have, I guess one of your correspondents to have said it, is the issue of this thuggery and violence that characterizes elections in Kogi State. I don't know why it's like that.
But Wale, I was just about to interject, and when you said this before, this is not limited to Kogi State. Several states around the country
Kogi
have seen violence. Remember in 2015, the so-called hashtag that came then, rivers of blood, even in other parts of the country.
It's everywhere. Rivers, in Osun State, in Bayelsa, in what's the place now? Plateau State, all over, really, all over, even Lagos here.
All right,
so the issue is
Wale,
not...
Just before you continue, sincerely apologize. We'd love to take a quick breather, and when we return, the program continues.
Welcome back. It's still the ballot, ongoing election coverage right here on News Central TV. My name is Kofi Bartels.
And I remain Dashen Usman.
Yes, indeed. We've had fantastic coverage from our reporters live on the ground in Imo, Bayelsa, and Kogi states right here on News Central TV. We've been giving, of course, a very interesting and incisive analysis from our guests in the studio and those joining us from other parts of the country via Zoom all through this program. We'll be here, and after we're done, we have more of our colleagues coming by, so please keep your dials, your channels locked on this channel. That being said, we still have Eze, Elvis Eluche, who is a lawyer and activist in Imo State, with us via Zoom. Ruben Joshua, Executive Director, Eco Just Empowerment Foundation, also via Zoom in Lokoja, Kogi State. With us in the studio, we have Wale Ogunade, President of Voters Awareness Initiative in Lagos, is with us in the studio, and Segun Sopitan, Chairman of Accountability, Candor and Transparency Network, right here in Lagos. But these are pictures from Imo State, Nigeria, where we've seen, of course, voting going on. We have two reporters on the ground, Chinwe and, of course, Niyomoni, both of whom have been reporting. We'll get back to them as quickly as we can. But I want Eze Eluche to give us his thoughts on... Okay, we've lost Eze already.
I think we were speaking to Wale before connected with Dino Nwelih.
Yes, indeed. Wale, before we had to connect with Senator Dino Nwelih. So you can complete what you were saying, Wale.
I was saying that the dramatics personae in Kogi should just give peace a chance. But where I'm going generally will be the issue of a constitutional reform and that of the Electoral Act. We must tinker it to give us peace. People should not lose their life, lose their limb, because we are having an election. An election is not a war, it's a festival. We go out, we enjoy ourselves. I mean, imagine your colleagues here out in the field there. They went to cover a peaceful conduct. Then, God forbid, we hear in news that they were hit by a stray bullet, or that they had they were bombed because of some people who want to grab power by force. That's not the intendment of the electoral process. And those of us who fought for democracy, that's not the intention, that people on election day, it will now become a war zone, a violent, induced, and a polluted place that people will now be killing and there will not be security. People are now afraid. No, it shouldn't be. Rather, there should be an access to the voting station. People will go there and exercise their franchise. And at the end of the day, the winner will be joyful. And of course, the loser will just like if wound one way or the other, preparing again for the next cycle that will come up in the next 4 years if it's a state or national election, and maybe 2 years if it's a local government, or 3 years for the local government. That's all, and everybody have fun. But yes, because it's a winner takes all. Yes, because that a lot of power, particularly that of dishing out patronages is in the hand of the person who wins, then anybody who wants to contest must ensure that it gets it at all costs. It does not matter. Some of them may come out in the open and begin to pontificate to us that, yes, they are behaving, they are okay, their hands are clean. Like the Yoruba song that my hands are up or white. It's a lie. Most all of them underground, they are involved in absurd things and dirty things that, of course, they too want to win at all costs. So we are not moved. We have seen a lot. People like us that are involved in koro inside electoral activities. We know that it is not as what we are seeing outside. So to that extent, we want them to put their acts together to ensuring that you have peace in this country. You see, now people have come out to vote to confirm what we are saying. People have come out to vote. The people that came out to vote, they have voted and they have gone back to their houses.
Yes.
No stress.
Sorry to interject there, but we can see the images or the clips or videos of counting ongoing in Imo State as we speak.
So that's just it. So anytime from now, I just pray that it won't happen, but that's when you now start hearing problems, and there is rigging, and there is a miscarriage of vote, and so on. For your information, that ballot paper that you see as you're watching, it took the intervention of people like us when we were having our various meetings with INEC to ensuring that it is now a real ballot paper. Before, what we normally have is one piece of paper that one electoral officer, of course, they have brought them with INEC with one stamp pad. Then they will stamp it. One electoral officer will sign. They will give it to you. You go and vote. When you now vote and you come out, you go your way. The next thing is that you find out that some hoodlums will come and steal that ballot box and the paper in it, take it to another place, put them together, like they say in local palace, they dabaru the whole thing, then they count them together. And the interesting thing is that there is always a number of people in a polling unit. Then you now find out that the number of people who voted far, raised to infinity, exceed the number of people who voted. Then you now wonder, where is this from? But again, we have put an end to that aspect. What we have now is that indeed, that ballot paper that you saw some few seconds ago are attached to the particular polling unit that election is taking place. So if people come like that vehicle now, maybe let's assume it's that of a hoodlum, they will now just come, start shooting. As soon as they start shooting, all those gentlemen, including the policemen there, if they don't have guns, they will run for cover. So they too will now go, pick the ballot paper and go away, ballot boxes and go away. But that again is now a thing of the past. Beavers that the young man is using there, and of course the numbering of the various ballot paper, it must go in tandem. Before this, the electoral officer in the polling unit starts their work, they will have looked at the ballot paper, confirmed the ballot paper that is the one assigned to that unit, because when it comes to issues of election activities, because again, I handle election matters too. You look at the ballot paper vis-a-vis the registered, the name, the number given to that polling unit. Is it in tandem? If it's not, then definitely it will not be counted at all. It will not be.
Is that not an irony, Wale, that as a classroom, you can see the blackboard?
Look
at that.
Is that a crack?
Terrible.
That's heartbreaking. You know, Segun, you were saying it's terrible.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, Segun, go on.
I mean, look, it's sad, and that's not the only one. We saw earlier pictures as well. I think it was also on your station where one of the polling units was in a classroom that had just wooden rafters, you know, covering the entire classroom. You know, the infrastructure around us, you can see how dilapidated it is, and this, look at that. That's a crack.
That's a crack.
Wall. You know, that it's dangerous. Is about to collapse.
And the ballot, a polling unit is there.
Right beside it. So this picture is actually iconic. Yeah. Because this is a failure. This shows that, you know, the process that is ongoing there has not produced the results that the society requires it to produce.
I don't know, maybe Dashen, if we can conclude that the officials there probably said, let's put this thing by the wall so that the cameras can capture it. But that process.
I like that. I like that.
You know, because they also are part of the system. They're going through exactly what that everyone is going through.
I guess what Segun was trying to say there was that it means that's failure of the system.
Absolutely.
And of course, to me, in fact, it's a big issue. I hope there are some activist lawyers who will see this and look in that environment.
And
look at it, because those are putting the life of those are children, the young generation in danger. So the next thing is that if that wall, maybe there will be a heavy rainfall. I guess, okay, it's Bayelsa. If there is heavy rainfall in that place, we all know Bayelsa too is subject to being flooded.
That was Imo State, by the way.
Oh, that's Imo State. Even the flood occurs everywhere. Then they will now tell us stories that touch the heart, that there is 2,000 or 200 children, the future of this country, had just died because of this, the wall falling on them. Somebody should take responsibility.
And even taking a look at the electoral process, the fact that, you know, the ballot box and everything is just there close to the crack, it might mean, God forbid, that if anything happens, any form of insecurity happens.
This classroom is cracked and reduced.
Yes,
see cracks all over.
The wall might be easily broken down. Absolutely. And, you know, the ballot boxes snatched and everything. Yes. It's really, really sad.
And the fact that Segun, you know, described it as an iconic scene, that voting area is meant to produce, at the end of the day, the process, a good education. That process, that polling unit, that ballot box, just by that crack wall, is the hope of those who are schooling there, that they will have good education. And what are we seeing today? I mean, gentlemen, I don't know who wants to talk about this, but it is heartbreaking that most of the polling units we're seeing all over today have been in classrooms, and they look utterly dilapidated. Wale?
Yes, it's unfortunate. That's what we are saying. I'm equally a victim of what happened, what we are looking at. About 20 years ago, about 30 years ago, I went to my primary school, my formal primary school. It's called the Chinwe Ugele Primary School. It's in Samaru, Zaria. That's where I went for my primary school. Just said, let me go and see what is happening there. I was not impressed with what I saw. And I made a strong petition to the state government, and prompt fairness to them, the government went to that school and repaired it. But my problem was I was not able to now do a further up. Maybe they did it to some other primary schools around that area in the local government because, well, I didn't follow up. But why I didn't follow up was that government, when they wrote me, told me that they are looking at it and they are going to work on all the primary schools in the Zaria local government area as it were then. So to me, it is failure of dividends of democracy. Because one of the things is that you want to secure the people. Section 12 of the 1999 Constitution is quite clear that the welfare and the security, part of the welfare is that of providing infrastructure that will not put any individual to stress. A citizen is under this direct control and the direct protection of the state. So the state ought to carry out its responsibility in carrying out structures, ensuring that indeed the community, the environment is protected. That is why that's why people are donating their mandate or giving out their mandate as we are having here in these 3 states today, to give it to somebody who will ensure that indeed their life is better than before. Not to now go there and now forget the problem and the masses that voted him and now begin to enjoy to the detriment of the people. I don't think that's how and what the whole essence of government is all about.
All right, now let's go back to the talk about vote buying. I don't know if Ruben is still here with us. Ruben, can you hear me? All right, so let's come back to you, Segun. Now, talking about vote buying, there have been reports of vote buying in the 3 states, currently running the elections, and you also heard what Dino Melaye said about accusing some political parties of sharing wrappers and and sorts. So what do you have to say about this?
I mean, Dino is also a participant in all of this, so he can't start pointing fingers. For the fingers that he points, I mean, he has to look at the other 4. And I say that under advisement. I'm not saying I have any evidence of this. I'm saying that because he's a part of the political establishment. So he knows what he's saying, basically. So this vote buying thing will not go away anytime soon until we actually address the things that we were talking about. And I like the way the conversation has gone in the last couple of minutes, because this is really what these elections are about. They're about good governance. They're about the quality of the lives of the people that are involved in all of these processes, the whole essence of these elections is that it is the first step, or one of the first steps, in the process that delivers the leadership that will then deliver governance, which will then improve the lives of the people. So it's a bit sad that you find that the people pay for these votes. I mean, how can you say you want to serve me, you want to lead me, you want to help improve my life, and you are paying me to get you to come into office? So that already tells you that there is a failure in the system. If you have to pay to get into that office, you are definitely not going there to serve. You are going there, the first objective you would have is to recoup your investments, in quotes, right? So to stop this vote buying thing, EFCC can't stop it. What will stop it eventually is when we've done the fundamental reforms that my colleague Wale has spoken about with regards to constitutional amendments, fundamental constitutional amendments, not the fancy window dressing things that our Senate, the National Assembly does season in and season out. We need to see actual devolution of powers, a decentralization that ensures that when a man wins the governorship elections or when a man wins the presidency, he doesn't have unfettered and unrestricted access to almost unlimited resources, and that the accountability structures and systems that will prevent those people from doing as they please are strengthened, in the Constitution. And then you now go to the Electoral Act. You also have to fix it in such a way that when these things happen, they do not affect the eventual outcomes, because there are fail-safes that have been built into the system to ensure that those things don't matter anyway. So we've gone a step forward in trying to improve the process to make sure that these things don't matter. But unfortunately, we have not gone the whole hog, and we all know why that is the case. The people that are making those amendments will not go the whole hog, because they know that if they do, then the game will be up for them. So we need to continue to drive and push to ensure that our laws are strengthened. For example, collation of results, for goodness sake, in 2023 must be electronic. So we have to move away from this manual thing that politicians are continuing to perpetuate because they know that they can manipulate those processes easily. So where the courts are saying that the laws do not compel collation electronically, well, they may be right, because the laws don't. So we need to make sure that the laws do, so that vote buying becomes useless.
All right, now we'd just like to give an update. One of our correspondents who is on the field has actually just given us an information saying that indeed Dino Melayo did not vote because there was no ink on his finger, even during the press conference that he actually held. And he said that he refused. Remember when they asked where his voting unit was? He was supposed to vote at the main polling unit, but even the INEC officials say that he hasn't come around to vote yet, and his photograph captured shows that that is actually his voting unit, and he has neither been there for accreditation nor voting.
That's quite an interesting update. Well, since a reporter on the ground that says he hasn't seen any ink on Dino's finger, we'll wait for him to tell us some more about that. But back to this talk about the dividends, and thank you, Dashen. Back to this talk about the dividends of democracy. Wale, are we, like our young folks of today will say, is Nigerian democracy a scam? Are we embarking on an exercise in futility every 4 years? Looking at and there are several pictures, we've seen from News Central TV and other media outlets of voting in educational institutions, in schools, in impoverished parts of Nigeria. And sometimes you see these candidates turn out in their full regalia, all right, go to vote in impoverished areas, and you ask yourself if these candidates really are seeing what is in front of them, the level of poverty and impoverishment. Is this a waste of time, this 4-yearly ritual for democracy, when the people do not have good schools, for instance, Wale?
Yes, it's unfortunate that, well, let me start from that big issue you raised. Democracy is not a scam. I've been involved in this process for the past 23 years, since democracy started. And if you can remember, I was going a bit, I took a little small lecture when it started in 1999, nobody gave it a chance that it will last this long. We are thinking like the other joke that maybe after 3-4 years, even before the end of the Obasanjo presidency, there will be a military coup. And because of that, don't forget, when it was coming up that when Babangida, then Abdul Salam was midwifing the current dispensation, many of the activists who midwifed, who struggled, who ensured that we gave Babangida a hell of a time for him to step aside, did not take part in the electoral process. The only person who took part was the current president, or is the current president, Bola Tinubu. All other activists who were in the struggle just gave way. And of course, we saw charlatans and mediocres came up, took over political office, became governors, senators, and so on. And of course, this thing was just thrown to them on a platter of gold, as it were. Some of them, they bought these offices, they bought this power. And to them, it now dovetails to that question that you just asked now. The people, does it matter to them?
Are you sure that all of them were charlatans?
I would say that because you see, the essence of government is the welfare of the people. You were voted because you should take care of the people. I travel, I crisscross Nigeria on a regular basis. There's no local government that I've not been to in this country. You know, I was talking to you about the Kogi issue, Diato in Imo State, and all these Okukomako or whatever its name is in Bayelsa State. I've been observed election in these places all over. So you see that as you travel around, the Nigerian road is still pothole riddled. You can hardly drive on safe on the Nigerian roads. You can hardly move around. There is no electricity. Basic amenities are not there. 23 years after democracy. Why? Because those who are in governance care less about the people.
So that's my question to you, Wale. Isn't all this an exercise in futility?
No, it's not an exercise in futility.
Every 4 years you go
The
vote.
problem is with our people. They gave people a blank check. Those who now occupy government, they gave them a blank check. I remember this Dino Melai. About 4 years ago or some years ago, he was almost thrown out of the Senate because he has no constituency office. And they ask each of them that are representatives of the Nigerian people from the House of Assembly to the National Assembly, Senate, they all must have a constituency office where they will interact with their constituents. There's none. And even if they come, let's assume they come, they don't give them they don't do anything in terms of giving them a report. The only thing is that they will say they are giving them palliative. They will stock their offices or the so-called constituency office with a grinding machine, keke napep, okada, or bags of rice. How long would that take them? Is that what should be done? So when all these things are amassed together, you find out they've been taking the people for a ride. Meanwhile, they are the people who make the laws, who budget so humongous amount as allocation for them to run their offices, to oversee constituency projects, as it were. At the end of the day, everything now boils down to their pocket. My pain is that you go to the rural areas, the back street, where are we now? The back street of Ogba, the back street of going to Ogun State, the Akutis and so on. You still find that the roads are not done. You find out there is no pipe-borne water. You find out that the transformer that gives them energy, power, even if NEPA, as it were, releases the thing and gives it to the people, is not there. Governance has failed. Not because of these people, as I told you, but the people, the Nigerian people, the voters have slept on their rights. They don't put them on their toes. They don't ensure that, yes, we have voted for you. We are your masters. But they see themselves, the voters now see themselves as servants. They give them the treatment of a big man. Whereas they go there, you see in other climes, the politicians who is in office is at the beck and call of the voter because they know that the voter is a king. But in Nigeria, the voter is a poor man. He's the person that will be trampled upon. Then the next 4 years they will come, throw abada to them as rappers to them, as Dino have alleged, and all sorts of things, give them rice and gari, and they receive it, they are happy, they go to vote, maybe they are given 5,000 naira packed inside a piece of bread, and of course, life continues again.
All right, Wale, let's go back to Segun. Now, we just received word that, in fact, that cracked classroom is the polling unit of the Labour party candidate, a governorship candidate in Imo State. And we all know how when candidates come out, they make so many promises, and we won't be surprised if that particular classroom was one of the promises made, to be fixed and everything. But, still talking about that, Segun, what do you think can be done to ensure that these candidates keep to their promises when they are elected?
All over the world, you cannot get good governance without an active and engaged citizenry. It's almost a mantra for me because I am a good governance advocate at heart, also by practice. And if you study all the democracies that we aspire to be like, whether it's in the United States or whether it's in the United Kingdom or Europe, the different variants of democracy that they practice, the unifying factor and the common denominator is that the citizens are actively engaged in the governance process. They are actively engaged. So the politicians are afraid. They're scared. They're scared of the electorate, just like Wale was saying. They're scared of the electorate. It's the reverse here. We're scared of our leaders. We're scared of our rulers, if I may use that expression, right? So in that classroom, it's an aberration. It's a contradiction that a candidate that is running for governorship, for that to be his polling unit, do you know what that means? That means that classroom is in his primary constituency. It's very close to where he lives. How can this be? How can you step forward and offer yourself to lead an entire state, whereas in your ward, I'm not even talking of local government.
But Segun, he's not in government.
I understand that.
And I don't want to defend the Labour Party candidate.
If you try to defend him, we'll punch it here.
Can I land, please? Okay. He's not in government, but if you read his profile, one of the things he's known for is he's been a philanthropist.
Good, that's where we are going
to. That's exactly the point.
Yes. That's where we are going. He should have done some philanthropic work.
So it's an aberration that is actually casting his vote in a classroom in that condition, that close to where he lives.
But we're not totally sure. Just to be not sure, that's what we're told. And of course,
so if it's not true, then it's fine. But if it's true, then that's what it is.
I take that back.
Let's push it a bit. Let's have some fun here. Let's even assume it's not so. Let's even assume it's not so. As a politician who knows he wants to lead, you see, sometimes you do some what we call packaging and so on. Go to a school like that, then put it up. Then, of course, do the promotion that you see this one is the tip of the iceberg. If I get elected, you can be sure I will do more than this.
Absolutely. I must correct myself from what Correspondent says. That is his polling unit. We apologize for that. Quite interesting. So, therefore, gentlemen, from what you've said, Segun, what has been the benefit of going to the polls every 4 years?
So exactly. So if you take that conversation forward that you were having with Wale earlier on, is democracy a scam? No, I don't think it is. I think that by its very nature, one of the things that I like about democracy is that by its very nature, over the course of time, it's self-correcting. So as citizens engage more and more with the governance process, they compel change and they compel modifications to the governance process that eventually is supposed to result in the delivery of good governance. So the missing piece in the Nigerian story and why it appears that it's a scam is that our citizens are not engaged with the process. We need to change this. This has to be led by civil society and the media. We need to understand that there is nowhere in the world, and I make bold to say this, there is nowhere in the world where you get good governance without the citizenry actively demanding it from political leaders. No politician anywhere in the world does good just for the sake of altruism. Nobody does it. The reason politicians do good and serve their people and their communities all over the world is because the citizens insist that must happen. So that's the missing link in Nigeria at the moment. The missing link is that the office of the citizen in Nigeria is vacant. We do not have an active office of the citizen that politicians look at and they know that if they fail, the next election, they will not be voted back in. And, you know, and it's almost like a vicious cycle. So the politicians, of course, know this also because they've captured the instruments of state. So, you know, INEC is compromised, sadly. You know, so the politician knows that even if these guys don't vote for me, I'm coming back in 4 years anyway. So as we speak now, whether we like it or yes, it will be something of an offset. For example, in Kogi State, as charismatic as Dino is, it will be an offset if Dino wins that election. Why? Because the APC is in office and they have the instruments of state at their beck and call. You know, so we need to change this aspect of the practice of democracy that we have in Nigeria. Right. Otherwise, it would appear to be a scam.
Thank you so much, Segun. When we come back after this break, Wale would love for you to actually tell us what you think is the most important step to take once an election is over. That's talking about what steps the candidates should actually take. Do not forget, you're still watching The Ballot on News Central TV. We'll be right back.